Okay, good day everyone. So let's now continue our topic and let's have convolution and integral equations. So convolution has to do with the multiplication of transforms. So if you, for example, you have two functions like f of t and g of t, the transform of the product is generally different from the product of the transform of the factors. So sinasabi natin dito is if you get the product of the two functions and then after that you get their Laplace transform, it is not actually equal to the product of the Laplace transform of each of the functions. Okay, so halimbawa, if for example you have f of t is equal to e raised to t and g of t is equal to 1. Now, if you get the Laplace transform of fg that is equal to the Laplace transform of e raised to t minus 1, the result is simply equal to 1 over s minus 1. So, yan yung Laplace transform niya. On the other hand, if you get the Laplace transform of f multiplied by the Laplace transform of g, the result is simply equal to 1 over s minus 1 times 1 over s. So, bakit? Kasi Laplace of e raised to t is 1 over s minus 1 and Laplace transform of 1 is simply 1 over s. And your final answer now for this is 1 over s squared minus s. And obviously, this one is not equal to this one. Okay, so makikita po natin na they are not equal. So we therefore prove this equation. Okay, so according to convolution, if functions f and g are piecewise continuous on the interval 0 to infinity, then the convolution of f and g denoted by the symbol f asterisk g. Okay, so that is convolution of f and g, guys. You have f asterisk g is a function defined by the integral h of t is equal to the convolution of f and g, and it is equal to the integral of f of tau g of t minus tau d tau. So ang idea lang dito, guys, is you just need to take note what is f and what is g. And whatever the function f of t, replace all t by tau. And whatever the function g of t is, replace all t by t minus tau. And then integrate it. Okay? So, from that, we now have a what we call convolution theorem. So if f of t and g of t are piecewise continuous on 0 to infinity and of exponential order, then your h of s or the Laplace transform of the convolution of f and g is simply equal to the product of f of s and g of s. Then the inverse Laplace of f of s, g of s, therefore, is simply equal to the convolution of f and g. So, para maintindihan natin yung mga formulas na to, let's have examples. So, first, let's have examples involving convolution lang. Okay? So, hindi pa si convolution theorem. Si convolution theorem is actually ginagamit natin involving inverse Laplace transform. Okay? So, we have here convolution of two functions. We have g is equal to 1 and f is equal to 1. So if we are asked to determine the convolution of f and g, it is simply equal to the integral of f of tau times g of t minus tau d tau from 0 to t. Okay? But since we have a function which doesn't have a t, parang meron tayong functions na walang t, only one lang siya, only constant lang siya, so hindi masyadong maproseso to. Simply substitute, wala tayong papalitan. Okay? So we simply have the integral of 1 times 1 d tau or simply equal to the integral of d tau. Okay? And the integral of d tau is tau. If we substitute the limits from 0 to t, the answer is t. Okay? So as simple as that. Alam nyo naman na siguro yan, no? Okay? And next example, we have the convolution of e raised to t and e raised to negative t. So this time, ang functions na natin ngayon involves t. So meron na tayong t na nakikita sa function natin. Okay, so you just need to consider what's your f of t and what is your g of t. So for me, I have, of course, unahin na lang natin f f asterisk g, di ba? So kung ano yung nauna, that's your f of t, and then ano yung sumunod, yun yung g of t mo. Okay, so f of t is equal to e raised to t, and g of t is equal to e raised to negative t. So the convolution now is simply equal to the integral of f of tau. Kung mapapansin nyo guys, yung e raised to t, pinalitan ko yung t ng tau. Okay? So, pinalitan ko yung t ng tau from here guys. Okay? And then for g of t minus tau, kung mapapansin nyo rin, instead of having e raised to negative t, pinalitan ko din yung t ng t minus tau. Okay, so observe niyo yan guys. Okay, and then of course d tau, and then we integrate it from 0 to t. Okay? So, simple para madaling i-integrate, ang magandang gawin dito guys is i-simplify natin siya. Okay? Applying law of exponents. So, this one, this e raised to t, wait lang, para maintindihan. Okay, so itong si e raised to t, e raised to tau pala, kakosana, times e raised to negative tau, i-simplify ko na to guys. Gawin ko ng e raised to negative t plus tau na siya. Yan. Okay, yan. Pwede nating pagsamahin yan. So, magiging e raised to tau, okay, minus t plus tau. Okay, plus tau. Okay, and that is now equal to e raised to 2 tau, okay, plus, minus pala, e raised to 2 tau minus t. Ano ba yan? Minus t. Yan. So, yan ang equivalent niya. Or this one is also equal to this one. Okay? So, law of exponents, guys. Okay, so ginawa kong ganyan para pwede na natin siyang, or mas madali siyang i-integrate. So, as you can see, ang parang variable natin dito ay tau, guys. So, parang i-consider natin si e raised to negative t as constant. Okay? Parang ganun yung dating niya. Parang constant yung dating niya. So, ang i-integrate lang natin dito ay si e raised to 2 tau d tau. Yun lang i-integrate natin. I-factor out natin si e raised to negative t. Okay? We factor out e raised to negative t and we get the integral of e raised to 2 tau d tau. And the integral of e raised to 2 tau d tau, the integral of e raised to 2 tau d tau is equal to this one. 1/2 e raised to 2 tau, yun pala, 1/2 times e raised to 2 tau. Parang e raised to u du. And then you have the neutralizing factor which is 1/2. Okay? So ngayon, we now substitute the value of tau. Okay? And then again, factor out mo lang ulit si e raised to negative t over 2. And then from e raised to 2 tau, isubstitute mo na si tau ng t at saka 0. So when tau is t, you have e raised to 2t, minus when tau is 0, you have 1 or e raised to 0. Okay? So the result now is equal to e raised to t minus e raised to negative t over 2. Or if you can still remember, applying Euler's formula, that is equal to sinh t or hyperbolic sine t. Okay? So yan guys, ito lang yung gusto kong linawin dito. Kung meron kang function, kapag sinimplify mo or nire-arrange mo yung equation mo, kapag meron kang function na in terms of t, i-factor out mo lang siya. Ang integrate mo lang is yung may tau. Okay? Yung function lang ng tau, guys. Okay? And then dun din sa substitute ng limits or pag-apply ng limits, ang applyan mo lang ng limits is yung may tau lang. Okay? Hayaan mo lang yung dating finactor out mo na kinonsider mo like a constant. Pero actually, this is not a constant eh. Pero parang, di ba, parang sa multiple integral, di ba ganun tayo nag-integrate? Kapag hindi siya, halimbawa, dx, nag-integrate tayo ng, let's say, xy squared dx. So parang, alam natin na y is also a variable, pero since we integrate with respect to dx lang, so ang integrate lang dapat natin dun ay si x. Si y squared is considered as a constant. Parang ganun yung labas niya, as constant siya. Okay, so ganun lang din yung idea dito. Okay, so let's have another example. Ayan, so we have sine omega t the convolution of sine omega t and cosine omega t. So again, our f of t is sine omega t and our g of t is cosine omega t. So parang f asterisk g. Okay? That's why our h of t now, or the convolution of f and g now, is simply equal to the integral of sine omega tau. Pinalitan natin yung t ng tau. And then sa g of t, papalitan natin yung t ng t minus tau. So obserbahan nyo yan guys ah. For f of t, papalitan mo si t ng tau. For g of t, papalitan mo si t ng t minus tau. And then integrate. Okay? So yun lang po ang kailangan nyong i-take note. Okay? But of course, as you can see, this one cannot be, parang hindi siya ganun kaagad-agad ma-integrate. So anong gagawin natin? We apply trigonometric identity. So we know, or if you try to recall, we have cosine of A minus B is simply equal to cosine A, cosine B plus sine A, sine B. So identity po yan guys. If di nyo na maalala, i-ano nyo na lang, i-search nyo na lang sa internet or balikan nyo yung mga books or e-books ninyo. Okay? So dito ang A natin is T, ang B natin is tau. Okay? So we substitute it from here. We now have cosine omega t cosine omega tau plus sine omega t sine omega tau. Okay? So since wala tayong masisimplify dyan, yun na lang yung isa-substitute natin. Okay? So kaya lang naman kasi natin to ginawa guys is again, we cannot integrate this one immediately. Okay? We need to do it or we need to apply trigonometric identity first para pwede natin siyang ma-integrate agad-agad. Okay? So, going back here and then substitute this cosine omega tau minus omega t minus tau kako sana, i-substitute natin ng equivalent niya. This is now the convolution of f and g. So, sinubstitute lang natin guys. Okay, and then simplifying further, i-minimize natin para makuha. Okay, so ito na siya, 'di ba? Ito na yung i-integrate natin kasi nga inayos na natin siya. Pangalan to, sinubstitute or pinalitan na natin si cosine t minus tau. So simplifying further, you have now sine omega tau times cosine omega t times cosine omega tau plus sine omega tau squared times sine omega t. So minultiply lang natin si sine omega t dito sa buong equation natin. Okay? So, factoring out yung function na t, hindi tau kasi we integrate it with respect to d tau eh. 'Di ba? So, since with respect to d tau yan, si function na may t, parang kino-consider natin siya as constant. So, i-factor out lang natin. Kaya naman nung finactor out natin yun, ang naiwan is sine omega tau times cosine omega tau. Okay, d tau. And then dito, okay, so ito, hindi ko na-factor out dito, pero dito na-factor out ko siya. Okay? So dito, pwedeng i-factor out mo na si sine omega t. Okay? Tapos ang iwan mo lang is the integral of the square of sine omega tau d tau. Okay, yun lang. Ngayon, applying identities again, if you can still remember, meron tayong identity na sine 2 theta is equal to 2 sine theta cosine theta. Therefore, sine theta cosine theta is simply equal to sine 2 theta over 2. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, si sine omega tau, cosine omega tau ko, where theta is equal to omega tau guys. Okay, where theta is equal to omega tau, ang sinubstitute ko sa kanya or ang pinalit ko sa kanya is sine 2 theta, that's omega tau, all over 2. Okay, identity po yan. Okay, para again, pwede natin siyang i-integrate. Kasi this one is also not integrable. Okay? So, and of course, ito hindi rin. Si sine omega tau squared ay hindi rin po pwedeng i-integrate agad-agad. That's why we apply trigonometric identities. But I do not know if check nyo na lang later on kung merong integral to. Pero for me kasi, ang ginagawa ko is, since ang mini-memorize ko lang is the integral of sine, cosine, cosecant, cotangent, tangent, and secant. So hindi ko ano, ang ginagawa ko is nire-review ko din or mini-memorize ko din yung mga trigonometric identities para as much as possible ang mga mai-integrate ko lang is yung mga yon, yung SOHCAHTOA lang. Okay? Ay, hindi pala SOHCAHTOA, yung sine, cosine, and tangent, cotangent, tapos secant, tsaka cosecant lang. Okay? So, kaya naman, this is also an identity. Meron tayong identity na sine theta or sine squared theta, where theta is omega tau, is simply equal to 1 minus cosine 2 theta over 2. So, identity po yan. Ito, identity, and then this one is another identity. Okay? So, ayan. So, ito na yung function natin which is now integrable. So, since pwede na siya integrate na natin. We now have cosine omega t is, and the integral of this one is, integral of sine, guys, is negative cosine. Okay? So, since we have a neutralizing factor dito na 1/2, di ba? So, meron tayo ditong 1/2 na constant dati. And then, kapag integrate natin to, the result is 1/2 times negative cosine 2 omega t. So, kaya naman, meron tayo ditong negative cosine 2 omega t over 4. Okay? So, bakit naging 4? Yung 2 dyan or yung 1/2 dyan is yun yung neutralizing factor kapag in-integrate ko si sine 2 omega t. And then yung 1/2 is dati nang nag-exist na constant. Okay? And then next, we have now sine omega t times the integral of 1/2 is 1/2 tau. Okay? I repeat, the integral of 1/2 is 1/2 tau. And or that is t over 2. Okay? So alam niyo naman siguro the integral of dx is simply equal to x. So the integral of d tau is simply equal to tau. Okay? Pero may constant lang kasi na 1/2. Kaya we now have 1/2 tau. Okay? And then the integral of cosine 2 omega tau over 2. The integral of cosine t, guys, is cosine theta is sine theta. Okay, and then again, meron kang neutralizing factor na 1/2. Okay, so we have therefore the integral of cosine 2 omega tau over 2 is equal to sine 2 omega tau over 4. Okay, and then applying the limits, you now have negative cosine 2 omega t over 4 minus negative cosine 0 over 4. Okay, so apply lang yung limits, guys, and don't forget the sign here. Yan, huwag kalimutan si sign plus sine omega t times t over 2 minus sine 2 omega t over 4 minus, so minus 0 na siya, guys, kasi dito, if tau is equal to 0, 0 to. If tau here is equal to 0, it is also equal to 0 kasi sine of 0 is 0. So, kaya ito na yung simplified niya. Okay? So, that's after applying the limits, guys, from 0 to t. Okay, and then rearranging it or simplifying further, I should say. So this one is negative and this one is also negative. So magiging positive yan, guys. And cosine 0 is equal to 1. So meron tayo ditong positive 1. Okay, so in-LCD ko na siya since same denominator. So yan, naging ganito na siya. Okay, so nire-arrange ko lang or sinimplify ko lang. And then this one, ayan, ito, so kahit wala na to, we now, parang inulit ko lang kasi wala namang masisimplify. Okay? And then, you now have cosine omega t. I think pinagsama ko yung ano dito, guys. 1 minus, okay. Finactor out ko lang pala si 2. Ginawa ko lang na cosine omega t over 2 times 1 minus cosine 2 omega t over 2. So, finactor out ko lang si 4, guys. Bakit? Kasi kung papansinin nyo to, di ba balikan natin, it is equal to this one. Identity ulit. This 1 minus cosine 2 omega t over 2 is equal to sine squared. Kung kanina, ito yung given, tapos pinalitan natin ng ganito. This time, ito ang meron, papalitan natin ng ganito. Okay? Para ma-simplify. Okay? So, yan siya. Kaya inarrange ko na ganyan. Inayos ko lang para pwede kong applyan ng identities. Okay? And then plus, ito, minultiply ko naman, I have t over 2 sine omega t minus, ito minultiply ko, I have sine omega t times sine 2 omega t over 4. Okay? And don't forget that again, this sine 2 omega t over 4 is equal to this one. Is equal to 2 sine theta cosine theta or 2 sine omega theta cosine omega theta. So, identity ulit to. Diba? Pabalik-balik yung identity natin, guys. Okay? So, ito, ginamitan ko ng identities, naging ganito na. Yan, naging ganito na. Okay, so ito ulit, ginamitan ko ng identity, kaya naging ganito na. Okay, and then simplifying further, you now have cosine omega t times 2 sine omega t squared plus t over 2 sine omega t. Ito siya, di yan na bago. Minus, ito, yung 2 over 4 magka-cancel out, kaya 1 half na lang. And then you have cosine omega t, and then sine omega t times sine omega t is cosine daw, is sine omega t quantity squared. So, kung mapapansin nyo, magka-cancel out itong dalawa. Okay? So, magka-cancel out sila and the answer now is equal to this one. Yan. Okay? So, yan siya, guys. So, if you want to screenshot it, so do it. So, do it na lang. Okay? So, next is, ayan. So, ito yung complete solution nyo, guys. And then this is the final answer. Okay? Or palitin pa natin. Ayan siya. Okay? So, next, this time, meron ka naman ngayong meron kang Laplace transformed and then you are asked to determine f of t. So, actually, this one can be solved using, ano yung tawag nito? Partial fraction. Okay? Partial fraction expansion or methods of partial fraction. Di ba? Ginagamitan natin to ng a over s plus 1.5 plus b over s minus 4. Okay, yan daw yung gagamit. Yun daw yung isang way to solve it. But, if you are asked to solve it using convolution theorem, do it this way. Okay? So, recall lang natin yung convolution theorem, guys. Sabi niya dito, if f of t and g of t are piecewise convolution on 0 to infinity and of exponential order, then h of s is simply equal to the Laplace transform of Laplace transform of the convolution of f and g, and that is equal to fs gs. That's why, to determine the convolution of f and g, to determine this one, you simply get the inverse Laplace transform of f of s and g of s. So, ang gagawin therefore natin, kung halimbawa meron kang given na equation na Laplace transformed na, you just you just try to consider what's your f of s and what is your g of s. Basta ito daw, class, itong buong equation na to is the product of f of s and g of s. Okay? So, we have therefore, lang. Okay, so yan. So, ang ginawa ko, I let f of s equals 5.5 over s plus 1.5 and g of s equals 1 over s minus 4. So, kapag prinaduct ko to, ito yung equivalent niya. Okay, ito, sorry guys. Ito ay simply equal to f of s, g of s. Ayan. So, the first thing that you're going to do is to let or to consider what's f of s and what's g of s. Kung kanina sa convolution lang, ang kino-consider natin is what is f of t and what is g of t. This time, we consider what's f of s and what is g of s. Okay? So that, after knowing what is f of s and g of s, you will now be able to determine what's f of t and g of t. Okay? So, f of t is simply the inverse Laplace transform of this one. And that is 5.5 e raised to negative 1.5t. Okay? And also, your g of t is the inverse Laplace transform of this one. And that is equal to e raised to 4t. So, ngayon, meron ka ng f of t at saka g of t. But of course, that is not, kasi di ba, ito, from here, ang hinahanap natin is the h of t, guys. Okay, h of t po ang hinahanap natin, which is equal to the inverse Laplace transform of that one. Okay, so we have therefore, the inverse Laplace transform 5.5, or your f of s g of s, or that is h of t, is simply equal to the integral of f of t g of tau. Okay, so pansinin nyo the first thing that we are going to do is to determine what's f of s and g of s. Actually, itong 5.5, okay lang kahit nandito siya. Kung halimbawa ang f of s mo is 1 over s plus 1.5, tapos ang g of s mo is 5.5 over s minus 4, okay lang po yun. Walang bearing yun. So long as tama yung pag-simplify mo, magiging pareho pa rin ang result. Okay, kung gusto mo naman, ang f of s mo is equal to 1 over s minus 4. Okay lang din yun. Tapos ang g of s mo is 5.5 over s plus 1.5. Okay lang din yun. Okay, again, okay lang yun basta tama yung pag-solve mo. So, hindi necessary na pare-pareho tayo ng kung ano ang f of s at ano yung g of s. Okay? So, yan. After you determine f of s and g of s, determine f of t and g of t. And then after you determine f of t and g of t, you now get the inverse Laplace transform of the given function, which is equal to the integral of f of t, f of tau kako sana, f of tau times g of tau, g of t minus tau d tau. Okay? So, ito is ano siya guys, nanggaling yan sa integral ng 0 to t f of tau, okay? Tapos g of t minus tau. T pala, not tau. G of t minus tau d tau. So, yan. Ito siya. Saan yun? Yung ano natin, nandito siya. Ito yun. Okay? So, to determine h of t, guys. To determine h of t, ito kasing mga 1, 2, 3 examples natin, dinedetermine natin yung h of t natin given f of tau, f of t and g of t. I repeat. Dito sa 1, 2, 3 natin, we try to determine h of t guys, which is the convolution of of f and g given f of t and g of t. Pero dito sa example natin, sa number 4 and number 5 natin, we try to determine h of t, okay, h of t given the Laplace transform, okay, of the equation, or given f of s, g of s. Okay, given h of s pala kapasana. So, hinahanap natin dito is the h of t given h of s. Okay, so Laplace transform na yung given, hindi simpleng function lang. Okay, so yan, asa na tayo? So, I repeat. So, ito is nanggaling sa formula na ito. Okay? So, if we get the integral of that one now, kailangan i-rearrange mo lang siya applying law of exponents. So, pinagsama lang natin si negative 1.5 tau. Di ba, ano yan e raised to negative 1.5 tau. Ayan. Tapos, pagsamahin natin, plus 40 minus 4 tau. Yan. So, kapag sinimplify mo yan, it is equal to e raised to negative 5.5 tau times e raised to negative 40. So, kapag sinimplify natin to. Okay? So, kaya naman, yun yung in-integrate natin. But don't forget the constant, which is 5.5. Okay? And then, we now have therefore, again, so 40, if-factor out lang natin kasi we try to integrate the equation with respect to d tau. Okay, d tau po tayo. So, yung may tau lang ang i-integrate mo. So, the integral of e raised to negative 5.5 tau is simply equal to this one. Yung naka-close and open parenthesis. Okay, yan lang in-integrate natin. Si 5.5 e raised to 40 is parang kinonsider natin sila as constant. So, we factored them out. Okay? And then, applying the limits, you now have e raised to negative 40 times this one. Pag in-apply natin yung limits. Bakit? Kasi nag-cancel out to. Na-cancel out to guys, tapos yung negative nandito na. Tapos when tau is equal to t, we have e raised to negative 5.5t. But when tau is equal to 0, we have e raised to 0, that is 1. So ito na siya. Okay? So ito na yung equation natin. And then, the inverse Laplace transform now of 5.5 over s plus 1.5 times s minus 4 is simply equal to So kapag ka minultiply natin 'to guys, sinimplify natin, it is now equal to e raised to negative 1.5t plus e raised to positive 4t. So minultiply lang natin 'to guys. Pinagsama lang natin. Okay? And this is now the result. Okay? So that's it. Ganun lang. And actually, sabi ko nga, this one can be solved using methods of partial fractions. So it depends na lang. So kung halimbawa, sa quiz nyo or sa exam nyo, I ask you to solve it using convolution theorem, then solve it this way. But if I didn't ask you to use convolution theorem, I just ask you to get the inverse Laplace transform, then you can use whatever method you want. Okay? Whatever process you want, you can use it. Bahala na kayo guys. So alternative solution lang to, involving convolution theorem. Okay? And then last but not the least, last example under this one. So, dito naman ang given is 2 pi s over s squared plus pi squared quantity squared. So, again, there are a lot of ways to do this or to solve this one. I think, hindi pala a lot. You can solve it using method of partial fraction methods of partial expansion. Okay, so ang gagawin niyo dito is as plus b over the quantity of s squared plus pi squared squared plus cs plus d all over the quantity of s squared plus pi squared. So I think that's case 3, or case 4. 'Yon. Okay, pero dito, using convolution theorem, kung mapapansin natin, wala tayong mga arbitrary constants or we do not have hindi pala arbitrary constants. We do not have coefficients like A, B, C, D, E, and so on. Okay? So, in this case, we just consider what's our f of s and what is our g of s. So, ako kasi, syempre, madaming paraan kasi sabi ko nga, kahit ano yung f of s mo and kahit ano yung g of s mo, okay lang yun. So, long as tama yung pag-simplify mo. Pero, sabi ko nga, if you want your equation to be simple one or mas simple, syempre titignan mo na kung paano mo siya ifa-factor out or paano mo siya paghihiwalayin na masisimple yung solution mo. Kagaya nito, kung mapapansin nyo, di ba, this is equal to b over s squared plus b squared. And if you can still remember, the inverse Laplace transform of b over s squared plus b squared is equal to sine bt. Di ba? So, kaya naman, instead na nilagay ko dito yung pi, sinama ko na dito. Okay? Para wala na akong 1 over pi, blah, 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 ganun, ganun. Okay? Pero again, sabi ko nga, okay lang din kung sinama nyo yung pi dito. Kung sinama niyo yung pi dito, ang magiging sagot dito ay 2 pi cosine pi t. I repeat, ang magiging sagot dito ay 2 pi cosine pi t kung nandito si pi. And then kung ito naman, syempre kung nandito si pi, ang 1 na lang ang numerator nito, di ba? So kung 1 na lang ang numerator nito, ang g of t natin is simply equal to 1 over pi sine pi t. Okay, 1 over pi sine pi t. Pero dahil nga ganito yung ginawa ko, ito lang ang magiging functions natin. So kagaya nga ng sinasabi ko, so long as tama yung pag-solve, kahit magkaiba tayo ng pag-factor out or pag-separate ng f of s and g of s, okay lang yon. Okay, pareho pa rin ang magiging sagot natin. Okay? So after we obtain your f of t and g of t, ano na ulit ang next na gagawin? I-determine natin yung integral ng f of tau g of t minus tau. Okay? The integral from 0 to t. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung 2 cosine t ko naging 2 cosine pi tau na. Yung 2 cosine pi t ko ay naging 2 cosine pi tau na. And then, yung sine pi t ko ay naging sine pi quantity t minus tau na. Okay, so pinalitan natin si t ng t minus tau. And then again, this one cannot be integrated immediately. So kaya naman ginawa natin, in-applyan ulit natin ng identity. And then that is simply equal to this one. Okay, so sinubstitute natin, ito yung result. Sinubstitute natin. And then sinimplify natin, nag-multiply tayo, ito yung naging result. Okay, so minultiply natin si 2 cosine pi tau dito. Okay, and then, so wait lang. I think na po ako naman kanina. Hindi pala. So, yan. Dito na lang. Okay, so dito, yan, minultiply ko lang ito dito at saka dito, ito yung naging resulta. So, dapat pala meron akong ganito dito kasi ayan yung buong i-integrate ko. Okay? And then, kung mapapansin nyo, finactor out ko ito kasi naka-t siya. Okay, ang iniwan ko lang na integrate ko is si cosine pi tau squared. Ito lang yung i-integrate ko, guys. Okay, ito lang. Pero, as you can see, before ko siya in-integrate, kasi nga hindi siya integrable, ang ginawa ko is in-applyan ko siya ng identity. So, cosine pi tau, or cosine pi theta, guys, cosine theta kakosana squared, quantity squared, is simply equal to 1 plus cosine 2 theta over 2. Saan ako? Over 2. Okay, where theta here is equal to pi tau. Yan. So, identity yan, guys. Okay? And then, dito naman, nung finactor out ko si cosine pi t, ito guys, nung finactor out ko, okay, nung finactor out ko si cosine pi t, ito, may naiwan na 2 cosine pi tau times sine pi tau. Okay, and then again, identity, di ba? Meron tayong identity na sine 2 theta is equal to 2 cosine theta sine theta or 2 sine theta cosine theta. So, in-applyan ko ng identity, pinalitan ko na siya ng ganito. Okay, so identity lang ulit yan, guys. Trigonometric identities. So ngayon, since pwede nang ma-integrate yung function ko, in-integrate ko na. So we have, ito nag-cancel out yung 2 pala dito, guys, magka-cancel out yan. So kaya naman ang naiwan na lang is sin pi t. And then ang naiwan naman dito ay 1 plus cosine 2 pi tau. And the integral of 1 is tau plus the integral of cosine 2 pi tau is positive sine 2 pi tau over 2. Okay, so that's the integral of cosine 2 pi tau. Ito lang, guys, hindi kasama si 2 kasi nag-cancel out na. Ito. Okay? And then also, we have here, yan, kinapi ko lang ulit do. And then the integral of sine 2 pi tau is equal to this one. Okay, negative cosine 2 pi tau over 2. Okay, 1 half is the neutralizing factor. Okay, and then applying the limits, ayan, applying the limits, palitan natin yung tau ng t, ito siya, minus palitan natin yung tau ng 0, ito siya. Okay, dito naman, palitan natin yung tau ng t, ito siya, and then palitan natin yung tau ng 0, ito siya. Okay, and then simplifying further, we now have t plus sin pi t plus t. Ay, wait lang. Parang na ganun to. Yeah. So, ito sinubstitute ko na pala, guys. So, dapat ito, t plus sin 2 pi tau over 2 lang siya. Ba't pala tau pala to? Dapat t pala to. Sorry, guys. T na to kasi nag-substitute na ako. So, hindi ko lang na-edit. Okay? So, this should be t plus sin 2 pi t over 2. Okay? And then, again, sin 2 pi t has an equivalent from identity na ganito. Okay? 2 cosine pi t sin pi t. Identity ulit yan, guys. Itong sin pi t, pinalitan ko ng ganito. Okay? And then, minus, ito kasi is 0 na, and then ito is also 0, so wala na to. Itong minus na to is ito na siya. Okay? So, wala na to, nag-cancel out na lang tong part na to, guys, kasi 0 na sila. Okay? So, we have minus cosine pi t times, ito is equal to 1. Okay? Negative times negative, so positive na siya. So, meron tayo ditong negative cosine 2 pi t plus 1 all over 2. Na-LCD ko na rin kasi same lang naman ng denominator. Okay? And then again, you now have therefore sin pi t times t plus, ayan, nag-cancel out si 2 dito. So, ito na lang yung natira, minus cosine pi t. Okay, ito, identity ulit. 1 minus, yung in-introduce ko sa previous example, yung 1 minus cosine 2 theta over 2 is equal to sine theta squared. Okay, pero kapag plus, ito yung difference ng dalawa, guys. Pag cosine theta squared, plus siya. Pero kapag sin theta squared, minus siya. Ito. Okay? So, review nyo na lang. Identities lang po yun. Okay? And then, simplifying further, you now have t sin pi t plus cosine pi t sin pi t squared. So, sinimplify ko lang to. Ito yung result. Okay? And then, minus ito as it is. And then, kung mapapansin nyo, mag-cancel out. Diba? And then the result now is t sine pi t. Okay? So that's it for the last example under or using convolution theorem. Okay? So kung gusto niyo i-screenshot, ito pwede 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then kung ito naman, okay lang din. Okay? So, yan. So before we have the next topic, siguro i-end na muna natin tong video na ito.